It doesn't take a genius to figure out that what we reward, we get more of, and what we penalize, we get less of. When we penalize people for working, when we penalize them for doing everything that makes an economy strong, guess what? We have a weak economy. And when we reward people for not working and being recklessly irresponsible, we create more irresponsibility. Irresponsibility from an individual sitting at home refusing to go to work when he could, or the irresponsibility of AIG taking their executives out to California for a nice weekend of massages and tennis games at our expense. The point is, it's time to quit rewarding reckless irresponsibility and penalizing people who go out and work every day in this country. That we can actually create an economy that works for us rather than against us, to unshackle us and free us from the tyranny of a government that operates for its own power and starts operating so that it empowers moms and dads to go to work and put food on the table and gas in the car and money in the bank, is to have a tax system that says we're not going to penalize you for working harder than the guy next to you. We're going to actually let you reward yourself, your family, and the future of this country, because we're not going to make it so that you regret it working hard in America. It doesn't matter whether you're the richest, most wealthy investor on Wall Street, or you're driving a truck, or you're pumping gas, or you're fixing heaters and air conditioners in the hottest day of summer and in the coldest day of winter. The fair tax is going to be the most important way for you to be empowered to run your own economy. But I'll tell you who it's going to help the most, quite frankly. It's going to help the small business operator in this country who represents the backbone of the American economy, for whom most people work. And we have created an economic system that makes it increasingly harder for that person sitting down at his kitchen table with a dream of starting his own business to succeed. And today, the greatest challenge to a person in small business is not from his competitor. It's not from some guy across town, across the state, or across the country, or even across the world. The greatest challenge is from his own government, whose system of excessive taxation, regulation, and litigation causes there to be job migration. Let's bring the jobs and the prosperity back to America. We can do it with the fair tax. Congressman Linder got something started in the House of Representatives that frankly needs to catch fire, and it will. And I've said we need to make it clear to members of Congress that they either ought to get behind the fair tax or be served notice that we're going to fire them and hire some people who will work for them. I know what people say, and Ken has mentioned this today in his remarks. It's been certainly confirmed by what Congressman Linder and others have said here today at the podium. There are those who say, it's a great idea, but it'll never happen. Let me remind you of something. Walt Disney was once fired from his early job by a newspaper editor who said he just didn't have any creative ideas. Louisa May Alcott was told by a publisher that he just didn't think she could write anything that would have popular appeal. F.W. Woolworth went to work in a young department store and was fired because they said he didn't have enough sense to do anything more than maybe sweep the floors. He didn't really possess the capability of waiting on customers. Throughout this country's history, there have been people who were told what they couldn't do, and they ended up doing it anyway. Bill Gates was a college dropout. So was Michael Dell. The original Revolutionary War was fought by a bunch of farmers who pulled the muskets off from above their fireplaces most of them had never been trained militarily. People, by the way, at that time got to be officers because they were willing to round up the farmers around them, and if they rounded up enough, they got to be the commander. It wasn't because they rose to the occasion, it's because they basically decided they'd create a little army of a bunch of farmers around them. And there's no way in the world that a bunch of ragtag farmers without the proper equipment, training, and really financial backing should ever have been able to stand against the British Army, which at that time was the world's best, most capably trained, best financed, and most formidable fighting machine on the face of the earth. But they won. And they won because they had something that all the money in the world can't overcome. They had the passion and the zeal because they wanted to be people who valued their freedom and their liberty even more than they valued their own lives. That's the people from whom we have come.
Amen,
they
brother.
are the stock of which we were born. Every single person out there who gets up and works hard and just wants to be able to know that he'll get to see his entire paycheck without the government getting their grip on it before
Yeah.
they do. Today, we need not only more voices for the fair tax, but quite frankly, we've got to have more votes for the fair tax. And one of the reasons that I came here today, and I realize now the Fair Tax Organization does not endorse candidates. But I don't work for the Fair Tax Organization. I support you. And they don't endorse, but I do. And I want you to understand something. There are only 5 United States senators in the entire U.S. Senate who are willing to put their name on the fair tax and be sponsors. And one of them is in a very important runoff in this state. And if you don't have any other reason, and I think you've got dozens of reasons, but if there was no other reason for you to make sure that you go out and elect Saxby Chambliss to the United States Senate and keep him in this seat, the fair tax is one good thing. We can't afford to lose one of the few and one of the most courageous that we've got.